evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beer Blather 235. Here comes the fun, na 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 na. Here comes the fun, and I say, I don't know what I say. Screw Kamala. Eh,
It's
what?
it's all right.
It's
And I
all
say,
right. And
yeah,
I say, it's all right. Na, 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 na. Traditionally, as you know, Thomas, the last month before elections in this bountiful land of ours has been known as silly season, a time when, pressured by what will be as a consequence of what has been, the Kamalas of this world resort to ever more desperate antics to call a voter's attention to themselves. Look, Mama, no hands, or ideas, or decency, or shame. With 2 months left before the boobs go to the polls, pretending they actually have a say in selecting the next cad, moron, egomaniacal, twerp, brain-dead curmudgeon, or retard to be the leader of the free world, we have arrived there. A little earlier than usual, granted, but we decided to give Kamala Harris a little extra time to try to understand. Did Kakala work for McDonald's? Did Trump have a dust up with a bureaucrat at Arlington over some photos? The answer to both is no, by the way, but who cares? Since everything is going peachy in the country and the world as we and the world as we enjoy the hard-earned fruits of Bidenomics and Pax Bideiana, like record inflation in 40 years, and Africa, the Middle East, South America, and Southeast Asia turning to shit, not to mention Europe, with the resulting disruptions in supply lines, distress in provision of raw materials, and increase in terrorist activity. And the U.S. border is secure. We know the border czar did it. And crime is at record lows. We discuss Kamala's abilities to flip burgers, or lack thereof, as if the depth of her throat wasn't enough to keep us busy. Given the season, Kamala took her first baby steps out of Biden's basement, and the results were quite disappointing to everyone but those who have been paying attention. The problem is not so much that Kamala is the most inarticulate candidate to ever venture into the great American election circus, turning every statement into a mysterious and mysteriously incomprehensible word salad. No. The problem is that she has nothing to say. Nothing but the regurgitation of tired slogans from the 70s and the ideas from the 30s, 1930s, that is. From price and rent controls to the expropriation of capital. A walking, talking anachronism. As Herman Tersch put it, she spews the ideas of Lenin, but in retardese. Those of us observing these rather ludicrous proceedings from a distance don't have much choice. But at least we have a unique position on the ring side of history to split our diaphragms laughing at the grotesque imbecility of the American public in response to the most grotesque spectacle ever produced. Never mind the sun. Here comes the fun, and it's all right. This is Beer Blather. This is Sol Montes Bradley, the largest human repository of useless information from tonight. Oh my God, Cape Canaveral, Florida. I just hope no rockets blow up tonight. And right next to me, Thomas Wichter, the largest, the only living expert in World War I flamethrowers, suffering like, God, like only he can, the vagaries of Mexifornia. How are you, Thomas?
Oh, I'm good. Since I'm the only world's expert on World War I flamethrowers, you could also say I am the largest.
Yes, but you're also the smallest.
I'm also the smallest. I'm the
Yes,
tallest. I'm the shortest. Um,
yes.
etc. etc. I'm good. I
Que
am.
será, será.
I'm marveling at everything that's happening right now. Um, I just got off the phone with my brother before we went on the air, and I mean, he's not like me. He's very upset right now, and if people heard our conversations, they would be very, very frightened. But in my own case, I mean, you know, we'll see what happens. Today, Nate Silver of the 538 polling company switched over and said Trump now has a greater chance of winning than Kamala. And all the polls showing that she's tied or 1 point ahead, that guarantees Trump's victory because Trump historically polls lower than his actual support, as James Carville pointed out. So if they're neck and neck in it, or she's one
He's
point
told.
ahead,
In Michigan, he's up by 2 points now.
yeah,
Latest one. After you see this interview that she did on the Clinton News Network is proving to be her Biden debate so far.
and now she's making noise like they're going to back out of the debate, the actual debate, for reasons. I mean, it's somehow Trump's fault. Uh,
Always.
they're saying that Trump needs to agree to change the terms when initially they were saying Trump needs to agree to the agreed upon terms. Then they went to they must agree to change the terms. Then they went
Some of
back.
the terms.
Well, apparently, what they want is they want an unmuted mic because they think
Yeah.
Trump's going to lose control, and then she'll give him what I hear black conservatives call the black woman moment of saying, "I'm speaking here," the way she did with Mike Pence.
Yeah.
You know, Trump is not Mike Pence, and Trump is fine. If muted or unmuted, he's not going to lose control. If anyone's going
But,
to lose control, it's
but
going to be her.
the funny thing is that the muted microphones for the guy who wasn't speaking was an imposition of the Biden campaign.
Yes.
Trump didn't want it. They said that without it there wouldn't be a debate. So okay, let's have it. I'll have a debate with any conditions you want because you're going to lose anyway. Eh, then, as you well point out, the Kakala campaign started. No, we have to. First, they accepted the conditions of the Biden debate. Then they said, well, no, he's going to lose control because we did our polling and voodoo and stuck a couple of needles on a Trump doll, and if we do not mute the phones, he's bound to say something stupid, and we got him. Like I said, it's not going to happen, and it wouldn't surprise me if at one point Trump says something like, "Okay, you little child, if you need to change the rules all the time, have it your way. I really don't care whether it's on or off." And he's not going to lose control, and she's going to be toast.
Well, it's ABC that's refusing to change the rules. And I think they're looking for, after this horrible interview with Dana Bash, I think that, or as I heard the Democrats calling her Dana, is that how she pronounced her name? Dana?
Dana.
That's what I thought. But I heard some Democrat muckety muck calling her Dana. So it's like,
Well, because he's so elegant. I'll call her Donut. Is that fair?
I the whole thing. I didn't watch it. I watched her looking like. I mean, okay, she was looking down constantly.
Yes.
Um,
Now
she
there were no papers or anything on the table, as our own meme shows. Uh, she was staring into the void, which is even worse.
well, she wants notes for the Trump debate, and it's like, I would say that's fine. I don't care. She's beyond help. I mean, this is the most pathetic, incompetent politician who's ever made the national stage, and you know,
But she's the only politician in the national stage fluent in retardees.
well, it's really amazing. I saw. Okay, the new talking point is that Kamala is just ordinary folk, and I saw this very mature woman who looked to be in her 60s, and she was wearing two like adult movie star ponytails, and she was going on and on about how Kamala and Tim Walz were just ordinary folks like us.
Well,
And I
they,
was just
they, they are ordinary in the Spanish sense of the word.
I was just marveling at a person, an old lady with two ponytails, talking about how ordinary she is, and it was just, I mean, what did there's some quote from years ago, I think from the George W. Bush years, a freak show of political pornography, and he was applying that to George W. Bush. I mean, we're at the point now where it's like, yes, the freak show is here, but it's not on the Republican side.
No, but I mean, come on. Really. Freak show on every level. Did you see Granholm testifying in Congress? She got her ass handed to her in not on a plate, on a paper napkin.
Yeah.
Eh, but then again, this is the same idiot who, within 2 weeks of being appointed Secretary of Energy, was giving us all lessons in voodoo economics by telling us that the supply of oil had absolutely no effect on the price of oil.
Yeah, and then she tried to drive an electric car somewhere, and
Had to abandon it halfway from Canada to Wisconsin, I think, or Michigan.
I don't know. I mean, this is all. I mean, this is madness. We're living in an era of pure madness, and
And how about her deputy? The bold wonder stealing women's clothing in airports.
well,
Talk
we're
about a freak show.
we're lucky that there are people like the Israelis who could actually, and the Ukrainians, who can do real fighting, who can engage in real fighting. Because, I mean, I read somewhere, I think it was yesterday, that the Chinese banks are abandoning the Russians. They finally decided that Russia is like, it's
Lost
hopeless.
cause.
And tonight, I just saw before we went on the air that Moscow was hit by over 100 drones. I mean, China, Moscow, Iran, North Korea isn't really threatening anybody, but those three countries were like the world's provocateurs. The only way that they could,
Are.
but they don't have anything to back it up. Like,
No, but you and I have been saying for the better part of 5 years that these noceums ought to be eradicated. I mean, when you have noceums that don't let you enjoy yourself at a party, uh, put some citronella lamps. Do something, for crying out loud. Nuke them. Throw raid at them. Get rid of the fucking noceums, because they're not going to kill you. They're not going to replace you. They're not going to take away your barbecue, but they're going to bother the living fuck out of you until you cannot enjoy your barbecue. That's what they are.
Okay, explain to everybody. I know what no-see-ums are, but just explain to everybody what no-see-ums are.
Oh, they're all over Florida. They're tiny little flying insects that actually they don't bite you like a mosquito, but they do. And you spend the night going like this, and we call them no-see-ums because, well, you can't even see them
No.
unless they happen to fly between your eyes and a lamp. For the most part, you don't even see them. You just feel the itch.
Hmm.
So, and
Yeah.
that's what they are. They're tiny little fuckers that you can get rid of with a little bit of smoke
Well,
that will let you enjoy yourself.
the other day, Hezbollah was going to launch the much anticipated revenge attack for the Israelis taking out Ismail Haniyeh. And
What are they going to do? Vomit on their shoes?
well, the Israelis launched a preemptive strike right before the Hezbollah was to carry out its attack. Hezbollah was going to launch 1,000 missiles and drones, and the Israelis blew up on the ground over 2/3 of them, and then the remaining ones they all shot down in the air. Hezbollah ended up shooting about 300, and they all got shot down in the air.
Yep. And don't forget that Israel also destroyed 2/3 of their launchers.
Of the launchers, yeah. So the great threat, the Western press always overhypes our enemies, and we're always told about the terror of Hezbollah, that it had Israel right where it wanted it, because any day now they might launch a quarter. They might launch a quarter of
build your own hot dogs.
What's going on?
Sandwiches and quesadillas to please even your
Hold on.
About quesadillas.
Is that you?
requires zero
Oh,
planning.
Jesus.
Zero.
Hold on. Okay,
We're being sabotaged by Mexico. They're throwing quesadilla commercials at us.
if you have an open tab, at some point it apparently it starts playing ads.
Yep.
I didn't know that. I know that now. Oh God, my head is asymmetrical.
Yeah.
But
You have to make sure you block all of the pop-ups because that's what happens, and it drove me nuts. I remember when it started doing it on my computer a couple of years ago. I was going nuts. Where the hell is this thing coming from?
yeah, and you go to YouTube now, and the way it's set up is you have a row of videos that they're recommending, and now at least one video in every row is a sponsored ad, and it's just like whatever. But
Oh, wait! Before we move on, look at the chat. Oh shit! I thought it was me. Now I'm hungry. I now want a quesadilla. Uh, see how subliminal propaganda works?
yeah, I mean,
Now half of our quads are biting on their mouses.
well, they need to make themselves some quesadillas. What's a quesadilla? It's a tortilla with cheese in it, and it's all heated
That's it.
up.
That's it. That's it. Best way to do it for people out there, uh, just put them a minute in the microwave to melt the cheese, and then put it on a pan with a
Amazon.
little bit of oil to make it crunchy. And there you are.
The order menu.
Holy crap! We're being attacked by Mexico again.
Yeah, no, it's this is amazing. All right, I get
Whatever
it.
you do, don't shut the screen. Don't shoot the screen.
No, I'm just I closed the tab. I wanted it open, but apparently it's not possible. So
No.
whoever-
By the way, Godspeed says and beef too. You can put anything you want on a quesadilla, but the basic is the tortilla and cheese. Then you can add steak or chicken or steak and chicken or shrimp or whatever crap you want to add. But the original, it was just a sauteed tortilla with cheese.
I watch a lot of Korean TV series, and one thing they don't seem to eat is cheese. They're big beef eaters in these series, and it's like a big deal if you tell somebody, "Let's go eat," and I'm going to buy the beef, and they're like, "Beef," and then
It's expensive.
you
He wants
grill
to get laid.
you grill the beef on your table. They give you a little grill, but they don't seem to eat cheese very much. The Japanese were really into cheese, but the Koreans don't seem to be into cheese all that much.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, there you go. The Japanese were richer.
yeah, I don't know much. I mean, I'm learning. Well, I'm not learning about Korean culture. I'm learning about Korean media culture. But it's really bizarre. It's I like it, but I couldn't live in Korea if you paid me, all the tea in China, because
I
it's
couldn't vacation there.
well, it's just different enough that it would be. I mean, not the shell shock. What do you call it? The culture shock. The culture shock would be very extreme.
My cousin George was ambassador in Korea for 5 years. Do you? And I had an open invitation to go there and stay at the ambassador's residence and all that. Do you know how many times I went there?
No,
Zero, none. Fuck it. I'm not gonna fly. I'm not gonna put myself inside a sewer pipe at 500 miles an hour for 18 hours to go there. And he said, "Why don't you visit me?" Well, when they name you ambassador to London, you're not going to be able to get me out of your house. But right now, no, thank you. I'll pass.
well, I've driven across the country twice, from coast to coast, and the first time I took the southern route. The second time I took the northern route, and we're not 50 states. We're like 50 countries. It was like really.
Literally.
I would say that the most different place I went to was Ohio. That was astonishing. But I mean, if I ever decide,
And within Ohio, you have two different countries.
well, if I ever decide to travel again, I'm going to spend my time visiting different places in this country.
Mhm.
My father was from Iowa, and the last time I went to Iowa, I was 2 years old. So I went to Iowa as an adult, and it explained a lot. I think I've told this before, but when you go to restaurants in different states, I was coming home, and I'd gone through Tennessee and I can't remember. But when I got to Iowa, I pulled into the restaurant. The place was utterly festooned with signs. Keep out, stay off, go away. It was amazing. And I went inside the place, and it was gigantic, and everything was tiled. So you could tell that at the end of the day, they would come in with fire hoses and just
hose the place down.
hose the place down. But you weren't allowed on the grass. You weren't allowed through this door. You weren't allowed through that door. I never saw that in any other state, only in Iowa. And it explained a lot, as I said. But what the hell was I talking about before the quesadilla attack?
I don't know, but since you're talking Ohio, my first cross country trip was from New York to San Francisco in 1981. And it was my introduction to the truck stops in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. It was like landing on some interstellar civilization on another planet, and it was fantastic.
Yeah,
It was fantastic. They're so first of all so incredibly fucking big. Are there really that many trucks in the world?
I think most of our commerce is conducted with trucks.
I know, but until you see a truck stop in Ohio, you don't realize how fucking big this thing
Oh,
is.
they have everything. They have markets, they have clothing stores, they have
Yep.
restaurants, showers, beds, everything.
I bought a sleeveless vest made with a sheep skin that I used for 30 years until it just rotted through. But amazing, good quality stuff. Just about anything you might want to need, but the size of it. And the restaurants are all good. I was accustomed to traveling in Europe and South America where stops on the road are generally shit.
Well,
You cannot find a clean bathroom anywhere in the route system in Brazil, Argentina, Peru. And here, it was like, wow. But
yeah.
anyway, we were talking quesadillas and then we went to Ohio.
Well, I agree. Now we were talking about Hezbollah, and
Yes.
we were talking about all these countries that have been threatening the world, and they're turning out to be flops.
Yeah.
And the reason I support Trump, one of the millions of reasons, is that he believes in a policy of nationalistic internationalism, where our country comes first, but we're not isolationist. And leftist Democrat presidents have done everything in their power to empower all our enemies. And, you know, a country like China, like telling us how the Chinese are our friends. They're not our friends. They want to destroy us. The Russians. You know, we need to. I'll never forget. John Bolton said that George W. Bush wanted to launch a series of attacks on Iran because Iran was arming and giving financial aid to Al Qaeda in Iraq.
And to Al Qaeda in Iraq, to Al Qaeda in
The Arabian,
Afghanistan, in
yeah,
the Arabian Peninsula, in the Maghreb.
Right.
They were conducting bombings from Buenos Aires to Paris, for crying out loud.
and Condoleezza Rice talked him out of it because she said we needed Iran's cooperation for the Middle East peace process. And it's
A
like,
fucking moron.
well, you think Iran wants peace? I heard
No.
it said about Syria, but it's the same thing can be said about Iran. Iran is the arsonist that sells water to the fire department. And, you know,
Yep.
you don't sit down and talk with these people. You bomb them until they stop. That's what you do.
And you don't have to bomb their cities. Destroy their military capabilities.
Yeah.
Destroy the Revolutionary Guard. Sink their navy. I think last count they had 20 functional. The number is larger, but only 20 are working. A-force. That's their air force.
Well, okay, they
Grounded.
have a type of ship. I don't know what classification is, if it's a cruiser, a destroyer, or whatever. But they had this really old version, and they decided to modernize it by building up the superstructure. So these things are so top heavy that they keep turning
Listen.
in the ports, and it's like we're dealing with people who don't even know how to build functional ships. Like, why are we treating them with kid gloves? I'm not saying you have to like mock them publicly, but behind the scenes, you tell them, look, you do what the Israelis do, and you bomb right next to all their military. The Israelis aren't allowed. The Biden administration has prevented the Israelis from really hitting Iran hard.
Of course, because they need to save Iran.
Right. And so what the Israelis did was they bombed right next to all the places that they really wanted to hit. And the Iranians had their stupid Russian air defense systems that don't detect F-35s. And so far, no massive response from the Iranians.
There's not. Alex is saying on the chat that war with Iran is inevitable. I don't know if I would call it war, because in less than a week we can destroy their military capabilities, and then what? They're going to march on Paris after that?
No, I mean, the
Can,
Iranians,
can we call the 5-day punitive expedition a war?
well, especially now, I mean, we're re-engineing the B-52 bomber, and this thing it's like the new engines are like going to double the range. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be able to fly these things from Louisiana to Tehran and back in one go
Without refueling.
without refueling.
Right now they do it. They refuel me there,
Mhm.
but we've seen it when we bomb Baghdad. You have American pilots in Missouri who wake up, have a breakfast with their wives, go to the base, fly over to Tehran, uh, bomb the fuck out of military facilities around there, turn around, and come back home in time for dinner with the wife.
Well, when Trump was president and the Iraqis were ostensibly taking on the Islamic State, at one point a B-52 basically buzzed the city of Mosul, and everybody caught it on their little cameras, and that was like, nope, that was like a little message being sent to everybody.
Yeah.
Look at what you
And,
did.
and by the way, let me say this, because there's always the nitpickers out there. Yes, I was a little bit hyperbolic. You cannot go over to Tehran and back in 12 hours, but you get the point.
Yeah, I mean, the point is that these countries that are causing all these problems, they need their PBs whacked really hard, and then they're quiescent for a few decades, and they'll try something again, but it depends on how hard you whack them. And like you said, we're not going to be carpet bombing their cities. We're not going to be killing civilians. The Russians claim that the Ukrainians basically carpet bombed a road with what do you call it? A barrage of rockets, but those were Russian rockets. It was an attempt to kill Russian civilians and then blame it on Ukraine. And the Ukrainians don't have any from where they are right now. They don't have the range to hit what was hit, and not with that caliber of rocket. And we wouldn't have to. I mean, a flight of B-52s over Russia or over Iran, a flight of B-2s. I mean, you could wipe out their full capabilities in a matter of hours.
Yep.
And the Russians are threatening nuclear war again. It's just like, yeah, okay.
You and I are of the generation that used to duck and cover.
Yeah.
They can blow me. I've been listening to the doomsters of nuclear war for 60 years that I have memory of. Enough is fucking enough. No, there's not going to be nuclear war.
No, because
Period.
that's the death of Vladimir Putin. And the one thing Putin doesn't want to do is die.
No, he wants to enjoy his dacha for crying out fucking loud. And Iran is going to throw nuclear. First of all, they still don't have a nuclear weapon. Number one. Number two, let's say that tomorrow morning they build their first one. Now they have one nuclear weapon, one, and they're going to throw it at Tel Aviv or New York, maybe. With what? A fucking catapult?
Yeah, they have no delivery systems.
Zero. Their rockets suck.
Yeah, ask Hezbollah.
Please. There's no fucking way. People just shut the fuck up with this thing. I'm up to here with the fear peddlers.
Well, okay, if you think back, there were all these seminal movies made, like Fail Safe, Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah.
Let's see.
The day after.
The day after.
Remember that was the worst.
Yeah, and there was always this sense that somehow this system was not in the control of human beings.
No, by mistake. You see,
The movie Fail Safe was about a glitch in the system that sent nuclear bombers to Russia, and we had to help the Russians shoot them down. And it's a great movie. All these are great movies, but they're not based on reality.
No, and by the way, they could even be entertaining. But when you see a movie about a Martian invasion, it doesn't fucking mean that the Martians are going to invade, you idiots.
Well, this is Hollywood's conceit, is that they're telling us what can happen, and we're all supposed to go, "Oh my God, I didn't know." Thank you, Hollywood. You're so wise.
Yes, I'll keep it in mind.
Well, the novel The Cane Mutiny is about a messed up captain on a ship, and the crew mutinies, and they're facing hanging because the mutiny takes place during World War II, and their lawyer gets them off, but then afterward he goes to the party and he's like ashamed of what he did to get the guy off, to get the crew off. And he tells them, "Don't kid yourself. These are like, yeah, he's an oddball, but this guy is one of the most highly trained naval captains in the fleet. And if you think you can compare to him, you're crazy. He's a career officer, and don't mistake. I mean, the people we have running our military, from an operational standpoint, they're like the sharpest people in the country, and Hollywood never gives the military credit for anything. The military are goons. The military is it's grunts and fascists who just want to kill everything, like the movie Mars Attacks, where poor Rod Steiger plays an insane general who just wants to kill everything in sight. Well, Rod Steiger was on one of the ships that escorted the B-25 raid, the Doolittle raid on Japan, and they had to sink a fishing boat that was in danger of exposing them. And he was a gunner, so he had to shoot this fishing boat and watch all the people on the fishing boat running to and fro before they all died. And he blamed the military for putting him in that position. And we had conscientious objectors in World War II.
Yes, and in World War One, and in the Spanish War, on every war, come to think of it.
Right. And for somebody to imagine you're a gunner, Rod, you've been trained. So at some point, you're probably going to have to use your guns. And when you went out, they told you. They didn't just suddenly say, sink that ship. The standing order was any ship we see, a fishing vessel, because most of them are have radios or they're faster than us, we're going to have to sink them to preserve our secrecy. So it's a little late in the game to suddenly, when you start firing at the ship, that's when you have your crisis of conscience. You have to be prepared. It's like cops who lose their marbles after they shoot somebody. You have to be emotionally prepared for all of this, you know? But Hollywood presents people as the military as bloodthirsty savages, goons, grunts. They made something like 23 Iraq War movies. I mean, good Lord. And they were all the same. They're all about Americans just murdering.
How about the Vietnam movies?
There's only a handful of those. And most of those were made, you know, in the late 70s and all the way up to the 90s. But there aren't very many, if any, Vietnam War movies that show Americans in a positive light.
None. None. The only one that comes close is the one about delivering an elephant to a village.
Yeah.
Of course, to replace the elephant they killed.
Right. The crazy Vietnam War veteran trope was created by a director named Peter
Bogdanovich,
who made a movie called Targets about a Vietnam War vet who goes up on an oil tank and starts shooting people on the freeway for no reason. And that is credited with creating the crazy Vietnam War veteran who was driven insane by what he saw and what he had to do in the Vietnam War. And, you know, all of that is a fabrication. There are people who become homeless and have PTSD and all of that, but they're a minority. They're not the majority. So,
somebody says here, I heard that Israel has nuke interception in Azerbaijan. Let me put it this way: if you heard it, it ain't true.
I didn't hear they have what in Azerbaijan?
The nuclear missile interceptors in Azerbaijan. Number one, if you heard it, it isn't true.
Well, the Israelis did say that they have the ability to intercept any Iranian missiles on the launch pad.
Yes.
And it's unclear how they would do that. Israel does have an alliance with Azerbaijan.
Yeah, but have they ever? Do we know they have that capability? War is deception.
Yeah, true. My guess is that, I mean, there was a big article written several years ago that the Israelis were going to use drones, but I don't think you'd have enough time unless the drones were circling constantly, if they're orbiting constantly. So I don't know. I mean, the Israelis are using a lot of technology in this war that we don't even know what the hell it is. All we can see is the videos of bizarre things and
and apparently at least some form of Jewish lasers did exist. And the new system to replace the Iron Dome is absolutely amazing.
The laser system is, I think they said it's going to cost something like $11 per shot. And
I've heard several figures, but it's always under 25.
Yeah, and this makes sense.
Versus 50 grand per missile.
Yeah, and this makes sense. We actually have operational lasers that we
Yes, we
use
do.
to destroy, like we were using them in Iraq to destroy
Mhm.
IEDs. So
And our Navy has them deployed.
yeah, the and also we're working on the rail guns that I remember reading about the rail guns sometime in the 1980s, and they were saying that the whole deal is to get the speed up to a certain point that if you fired a projectile the size of a quarter, it could blow up an entire tank because of the speed. And I don't know if that's true or not, because I don't know what you could blow a hole through a tank, but if there's no mass behind the projectile, I don't know if pure speed would do the trick. It might.
The speed of light. Oh shit, that's a laser.
Yeah, and the good thing about lasers is that you could have one firing system that could be going.
Well, that's the thing. One is the cost. The cost per shot is incredibly lower, and the second one is that it's ready to fire again after 20 seconds.
Yeah, and okay, we were going to build a 747 that would shoot down missiles, and it had a laser in the nose, and it got to the point where it was actually flying. Then Congress killed it. You know that we built an interceptor system that we shot down. There was a falling satellite, and it was traveling at over 17,000 miles an hour, and we shot it out of the sky. And then the Chinese complained, so George W. Bush ordered it dismantled.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
How dare you have a weapon the Chinese don't like?
The Chinese should be told.
Compared to Ronald Reagan, we convinced the Russians that we had cannons in space to destroy their missiles, and they thought that it was possible, and essentially came hand in hand, and we had the biggest drawdown in nuclear missiles.
Well,
Sometimes all you have to do is convince them. But what you're telling me about George W. is the opposite. Is not only don't we use deception to convince them we have a weapon we don't. If we do develop a weapon and they don't like it, we pull it.
yeah, I mean,
Really?
this is what I don't understand. Why in the world are we mollifying the Chinese when they're spying on us in our own country?
They're fucking around with all of our allies from the Philippines and Taiwan
Dr. Phil was
to Japan and Malaysia.
Dr. Phil was showing Trump a map of the Chinese farmland purchases, and they're surrounding sensitive military sites, you know, and it's just like, why are we mollifying these people? They're out to get us. What we have to do is we have to convince them to stop messing with us. Wait, remember when they sent those balloons? And we were like, there was all this debate. What do we do? Do we shoot it down? Do we not shoot it down? Do we shoot it down? Do we not shoot it down? It's like, shoot it down, for God's sake.
Look, it flies nice. And by the way, that wasn't the only one. There were two flying over the U.S.
Yeah.
and two flying over South America. These people were using these. And again, and our press didn't inform us. Most people don't know of the second one in the U.S.
No, because the press, you know, Biden told them, don't tell them.
Yeah.
And they protected Biden the way they're trying to protect Kamala. But I don't know, it's and then the press has the nerve, the gall to turn around and say, how dare you say that we're biased? We're not biased. We're right down the middle. And it's like, no, you're not. You're an arm of the Democratic Party. Just compare J.D. Vance's interview with Dana Bash compare it to Kamala's interview with Dana Bash. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, it's some people are asking why aren't you using your YouTube channel to promote? It doesn't matter how many times you explain something. It doesn't seem to register with some people, does it?
Well,
Folks in YouTube, that is a question that came from YouTube. I was surprised to see that there were messages there because we always tell people we do not answer, we do not follow, and we do not care about the chat in YouTube. Uh, Let it be known that it's been 51 minutes, and in one more minute, if you don't click on the link to come to Odyssey right down there, or go and watch us in Twitter for all I care, we're gonna go bye bye, you boob. And no, we have absolutely zero interest in promoting our work in YouTube.
there's no point.
Nothing.
YouTube demonetized us every single time, and then when it was contested, they say, "Oh, you're right," and then it was too late. So why give them the power to like mess with our heads? You know?
No, and in other cases, they gave us suspensions, and they kept us permanently on the edge of one more and you're gone.
That's why I removed all my videos from YouTube, was
Yeah.
because they started giving me community strikes over stuff that was 5 years old.
Well,
And
that's what they did in the Quadverum channel too.
the community strikes were bogus. So
Yeah.
I'm they obviously don't want me there, so I'm not going to be there. I don't care. I don't care.
They have their company, they have their rules. That's fine by me. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna promote there. Um, so anyway, that is the only answer because a lot of people wonder sometimes. And since we are talking about you, boob, and we want to start showing videos eventually. Um, Bye bye, you boob. It's been a pleasure. See you here next week. And hopefully, see you here next week in Odyssey, not in your boob. Take care.